Tony Vitello is introduced as the Giants manager, and of course, they had a press conference. Eric Cain from Locked On Vols joins us to tell us everything about Tony Vitello. And last but not least, should Ron Wotus make a return to the Giants coaching staff? That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show on Sacktown Sports 1140, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., the Alan Stiles Show. Be sure to check that out, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercast games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are breaking down the highlights from Tony Vitello's intro presser. We are joined by Eric Cain from Locked On Vols to get a little breakdown on Tony Vitello from his point of view. And we discuss Ron Wotus. Should the Giant coaching great return to help out this new coaching staff? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. It is going to be a really fun show for you. And like I said, we are going to be joined by Eric Cain from Locked On Vols. He's going to give some great perspective on Tony Vitello. But of course, we are going to get into this intro press conference and everything that Tony Vitello had to say, everything that Buster Posey had to say, and go from there. I had a couple highlights and just straight up quotes that I wanted to read because I know everybody's running around. This is the first thing that Tony Vitello said. I got the first thing that he said. I have a couple great answers from some important questions that he got into, and then we'll just kind of break down what I think about it, if I have any takeaways, and of course, be sure to comment and let me know what you're thinking as well. So this was the first thing that he had to say once the mic got tossed over to him. Quote, obviously, thank you to Buster, to Zach and Greg Johnson, Larry Bear, all the ownership, really all the organization. I know players' feedback was important. That's kind of where my whole deal started, is with players. Gavin Keelan, who some of you may know, was fortunate enough to be a first-round pick here, and that's where some of those conversations exist between the college level and the pro level. Obviously, something all those players are aspiring to do is to make it to the big leagues. And as this process has gone, it's been funny. I've gotten a lot of text messages about living out your dream, or somebody said, when you have baseball cards when you're little, which I still have some, I don't know if they're worth anything or not. Did you dream or you dreamed of being this? I never dreamed of being a Major League Baseball player. I don't know why. My skill level wasn't very high. I think I was just far above the clouds that I never saw it. And for me as a coach, I was just kind of trying to make my way. I got thrust into a position at a young age that I probably didn't even deserve. So I was just trying to do a good job. And fortunately, it helped get me to the next spot and the next spot and the next spot. And eventually this did become a dream where I kind of decided if I was blessed enough to receive an opportunity, this is something I wanted to do before I was done coaching in general. And now I'm incredibly humbled and blessed to do so. So it is a dream come true, but it's a very recent dream. It wasn't one I had for a while. And as much as I'd love to sit up here and promise things and pound my fist on the desk and all that, really all I want to do is a good job. And I think because of being around my dad and being blessed around winning players similar to Buster, those standards are very high. I know it'll be a question later. I've spent some time around this organization, either as a fan or just watching, or again, through business ways. I'm fully aware of the tradition that's here and the excellence that's been brought by managers like Bruce, Dusty, and the toughness from guys like Madison and Sergio, the loyalty, which is incredibly important, a word to me and my family, which is epitomized by the guy to my right. He's talking about Buster Posey, the records that have been set by guys like Barry and Willie, talking about Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, and Tim Lincecum, and everybody else. The one thing that always got to me was the family, the sense of family that was a part of this organization. And one of the players I coached came up during Hunter Pence's playing days and just talked about how good that guy was to everybody in the organization, especially younger aspiring players and rookies. So there's a lot to learn from the past, and there is very high expectations, very high standards to meet because of the past. And this is a challenge that's been presented to me. I'm humbled and honored to be here in front of you today to take on that challenge. I thought there was a great opening statement. Thought it was a great opening statement. He hit on everything. He took questions later on, and he said pretty much everything that you can say. I think he was very transparent. And this is what I think a lot of people love about Tony Vitello. I can't say I love it yet because still getting to know him as a manager, but I love transparency. There's nothing worse than you're working at, what your company or your job, and they say everything is great, and then they have layoffs, right? And obviously they can't tell you anything, but it's always nice to know, hey, what direction does it seem like this thing is going? And Tony Vitello is clearly a guy that is going to shoot you straight and just tell it like it is. And he would want you to do the same thing. That's my initial thought. And he's not coming in making any crazy promises. Like he said, he just wants to do a good job. And I think a lot of people can appreciate that. Now, obviously, he knows the standards and he knows the expectations, but he's not going to sit there and say World Series year one, even playoffs year one. He's going to come in, build his culture, and build an organization or mold an organization to what he wants it to be with the help of Buster and others. A couple others that I thought were very important on if he was asked if he can transition his passion to the 162 game grind or if he has to turn it down a notch. Quote, I think if you ask my mom, she'd want me to tone it down. But if you ask my dad, he'd say kick it up a notch. I think it's completely different. There's obviously, we didn't waste any time. We got to the first question that everybody was maybe thinking and should ask. And it is very different. So I think the one thing about each game unto itself, whether it's high school, college, or pro, it's kind of got its own personality, its own flavor. And you have to adapt to that particular day, especially in our sport. I mean, the one common theme that I always when I first started coaching that I didn't like is when you lose 9-6, it's the pitching let us down. And when you lose 3-2, it's the pitchers did their job, but the hitters didn't. You win and you lose as a team, and every game, for whatever reason, kind of have its own vibe to it. And I feel every day is like that too. And whether it's 162, 56, whatever, baseball is a sport that is built on sample size. And you have to be willing to separate each one as a mutually exclusive one and attack it for what it is at that particular time. So I wish I had an answer in my own head, to be honest with you, because I first got here, I was like, man, there are a lot of unknowns and just a lot of wonder in my mind. And of course, you can ask people to draw on previous information, but until you live it out, you don't know what it's going to be like. Again, just very, very honest about everything. And I can appreciate that. I like how he's bringing up, just because the pitchers only gave up 3 runs doesn't mean that the hitters didn't do their job, or vice versa. You never know what happened that day. Very much a family feel to what he's going on. And just one more quote for you that I thought was a good one. The question was asked on if he has concerns about the energy he'd use managing a college player, not working on professional players. Quote, yeah, I think one thing we did well at all the places I've been, in particular Tennessee, was coach guys as individuals. I've always used the example in recruiting. You turn on a TV and watch a big league game, whether it's last night or you're watching the Giants or the Padres, you're going to see 9 different stances, 4 or 5 different deliveries and things like that. So it's not an exact parallel, but just kind of an example of it's got to be individualistic. I mean, some of these guys are guys that I've recruited, and I don't know what the punishment, the running is, but Bryce said no to Tennessee, talking about Bryce Eldridge when I was there. So we'll have a separate conversation. But no, he's a great kid. But he's, to be honest with you, he's exactly what I just got done doing a week ago. And then you climb the ladder and you get to a guy like Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer or somebody like that. I think those conversations are completely different. So it's an easy answer to say it's individualistic because it's kind of vague, but that's what it truly is. And then falling back on my other answer, I do think you got to come to the office and vibe it out. I think some of those conversations are a lot easier when things are going good, and when they're not, But Buster just kind of got done commenting on, we'll all work together. The whole goal is to create a bond here between everybody at the top, all the way down to whatever you consider the bottom of the depth chart, and all have a bond strong enough that when Alex Gordon hits a triple, everybody's still on the same page and willing to get through that moment and come out victorious. I was at that game, by the way, behind home plate. It was rather intense, correct? And Buster says, yeah, I'll second that. It was talking about the World Series. So great stuff from Tony Vitello, exactly what you would expect. He nailed it, in my opinion. He nailed it. Buster Posey, just some quick notes on Buster Posey. Buster said whenever he asked people about Tony Vitello, the response was, this guy's a winner. He has a vision to be great. Buster also made sure to say that this was Zach Manassian's idea, and that every time they brought it up, it got more and more interesting. So I thought it was high vibes in that building. Everybody very excited. Of course, that's how it is on a day like this, and that's how it should be. But I think they're all really excited to get to work and build this thing up and see what they can do. You know, see what they're able to do in a situation like this that they haven't been in before, and make a little bit of history along the way. So great stuff from them. Yeah, my initial thoughts are go out there, get it done. Don't talk about it, be about it. And he's not even really talking about it like that. He's saying, we're going to see. But I think how he goes about it, and be sure to fire it up yourself, because how he talks, it's very polarizing and it pulls you in, which is exactly what everybody has said. That is going to make you excited about the future for the San Francisco Giants. Still no clue if it's going to work or not, but every time this guy speaks, I've been watching a lot of his other hits that he's done on podcasts and shows and panels. Every time this guy speaks, you feel good about what he's saying, and you believe it. You believe it, and I believe it so far. We'll see how all of it turns out. When we return, we will be joined by, like I said, Eric Cain from Locked On Vols to give us even more of a breakdown on Tony Vitello and just the good, the not so good, and a couple surprises that you'll hear and see as far as the roster he created at Tennessee. Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. As promised, we are joined by Eric Cain of Locked On Vols. Eric, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, appreciate the invitation, and excited to talk a little Tony V.
Well, I wanted to give, and I've given the listeners and the viewers a bit of a background, but you reached out to me and you said, hey, Alan, what are you hearing about this? And I thought it was a pipe dream from a Reddit or just another Giants social media Twitterverse member. And then the thing started to get legs. How did everything come to be from your point of view when it changed from rumor to, this guy might actually leave?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that there was obvious interest there from the get-go. Like, he wasn't just a name mentioned at the bottom of a list. I think it was there for a reason. We know that Tony Vitello had a relationship with Buster Posey. Those two guys go back, and they like each other a lot. And so, I mean, there was always something there. But, again, kind of like you said, like, everybody I spoke to on the onset was like, yeah, I still don't see that happening. It's very unlikely. And so things kind of died down for, like, 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then Hundley pulled his name out of the hat, and Suzuki was with the Angels, and it felt like, like a lot of the, at least Hundley for sure, but a lot of the options for the Giants that maybe you preferred kind of had, other plans. And so I think that's when it became a reality. So it was like, Wednesday to Friday of that week, like things started really heating up again. And then you had the Athletic to drop that, national, story about how they're at the 1 yard line, they're finalizing the deal. Yeah. And then, you'll get this about Tony, and you'll see this come across in his, press conference. Like, he cares so much about relationships, about his clubhouse. And I think he was shook, man. I think he was shook. And so he went into about like a 4 to 5 day period where he had to make a decision. And like, but from the onset, it's like, well, dude, just go make history. It's the big leagues. Like, what are you doing? But like, he had a good thing going here at Tennessee, won a lot of games. East Tennessee's a great place to live. He just got a brand new house. He made a ton of money. Like, his quality of life is going to change dramatically now that you're going to be coaching 162 games a year. So I think he had a big decision to make. And so we kind of phrased it Tony watch for about 4 or 5 days. And ultimately he makes the call. But no, it was a whole lot of, there's something there, but I don't think it's going to happen to, oh, it's happening. And I'm surprised it hadn't happened yet. I mean, it went from 0 to 100, like in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, and I think, and what I've been saying is, I was driving to a pumpkin patch. We were joking about just family life before we hopped on here, but I was driving to a pumpkin patch when the Athletic article broke, and I got a text saying, hey, you know, this thing is escalating quickly. But at that time, I felt like it may have leaked. So that 72-hour period maybe was a day early. And then when he didn't say anything after 72 hours, I thought, is he getting cold feet? But I think, to your point, whoever made up that arbitrary amount of time, maybe it was supposed to happen, and Tony just said simply, I need more time. And that seems to be the case, because I thought, okay, maybe he's pulling out. To your point, he's making as much as a ton of major league managers right now. I'm sure he makes all this money and still never pays for food or a beverage in Knoxville. So I knew it was going to be really tough for him to make a decision. With that being said, and we're talking to Eric Cain of Locked On Vols. Eric, can you break down who Tony is as a coach and why he seems to be this pioneer, or Buster Posey thought he'd be the guy to be this pioneer and do something that's never been done and be the first college coach to jump to be a major league manager?
Man, like I like everybody else, so excited to see how this pans out. And I'm going to be rooting for Tony V. Tony's a great guy. I enjoyed covering his program here for the couple of years I covered it. Phenomenal work here over 8 seasons in Knoxville. He is a relationship guy. He inspires. He gets the most out of everybody. He goes in the transfer portal, and I think this is one of the big reasons why Buster wanted to go this route. Like, he goes in the transfer portal, and he walks in, and like, this is before the national championship. This is before, 5 straight, super regional appearances, and he's just like, hey, come to Tennessee. Yeah, our stadium's awful. This is before the renovation. This is before, our state, like, they had to bring recruits in through the left field gate because they were embarrassed to bring recruits in through the front gate because the stadium was just ugly, okay? And you're bringing kids to campus and you're selling them on a vision. You're selling them on, what they're going to accomplish in this program with the help of Tony Vitello and his staff. And he was getting these big-time portal players and these big-time recruits to pass on the draft and come to Knoxville, Tennessee, and take a chance on yourself, take a chance on me. And he was stacking and stacking and stacking. And I think that's an appealing part for Buster Posey, because I think he believes that Tony can go into free agency this winter and have – not duplicate it, but have some success and win some of those battles, because, San Fran's a great place to go play. It's got a great history, got great resources. Why not San Fran to get some of these bigger name free agents? And I think Tony Vitello can help in that. But he's a fiery guy. He's Italian. He's going to have to learn that it's not 60 games anymore. It's 162 plus playoffs plus spring training. He's going to have to hold back a little bit. But I think that, Tony, relationship, chemistry, he's gonna have to earn the respect from those guys in the dugout, no doubt, because a lot of those guys are probably thinking, like, who's this guy? Like, come on. He's gonna walk in, he's gonna have to earn it, but I don't think it's gonna take long at all for him to earn it, and I think he's going to inspire and get the most out of his players. So he'll surround himself with a good staff, obviously. That's what he did here at Tennessee, but I think it's relationships, inspiration type guy, like more stuff like that. And obviously he knows a thing or two about baseball, but I think it was more of that than anything else in this hire, just in my opinion.
So everyone has seen, and we're talking to Eric Cain from Locked On Vols. Be sure to check that out. The press conference going on today, and everybody's very excited. Everybody has seen the Drew Gilbert a bat flip that has not landed yet from about 2 years ago at the World Series. And when I think of Tennessee, I think of Tony Vitello. I think of everything that we have seen these last couple years here and just college baseball. I love watching college baseball. I'll have on the 4-letter network on the app, and I'm watching UC Davis taking on whoever. I love all that. So I'm pretty well versed on Tennessee from even myself, from an aura, as the kids say, swagger point of view. Eric, can you speak to the identity of the baseball team besides the bat flips, besides the fieriness? Do they steal bases? I know that stadium, and don't get mad at me, Eric, I know it's a bit of a hitter's ballpark. Mm-hmm. I do know that's what they say about it. Can you speak to the identity of what that team was and how that might be able to translate to what the Giants, not just the Giants, but up and down the Giants organization, AA, AAA, single A, what all that could be?
Yeah, offense, and yeah, the park a little bit smaller than most, but like, you know, when they go to Omaha, when they go to Hoover, man, the offense stays. I mean, the power stays, right? And you know, Josh Elander, who's taking over for Tony Vitello, you know, hitting coach for 8 years, and I think he did phenomenal work in that category. Quentin Eberhardt, strength and conditioning coach for Tennessee, obviously had a lot. Former director of you know, strength and conditioning coach for the Chicago Cubs for a year, came back to Tennessee. So a lot of offense, and the pitching numbers for the park, you know, shockingly really, really good with Frank Anderson, who, you know, spent time as in Texas and Houston, and he's been around the block a little bit as well. But offense, pitching numbers have been really, really good under Frank Anderson. I wouldn't say they steal a lot of bags.
Yeah.
Defense, work in progress. You score a lot of runs. You can afford some slip-ups in the field. I think the priority is always across the board, but you know, I think the priority was mainly offense in my opinion. And it was kind of like, well, let's just find a spot for you defensively, and then let's get you good at it. And that's kind of been the recipe for Tony Vitello here at Tennessee. I mean, you know, Tennessee's had a couple of third basemen in the last couple of years that weren't Gold Glovers and won a whole lot of games. And so when you have an offense that's hitting on all cylinders, like, you know, one Tennessee's had, you can overcome a lot of that. So not uber aggressive on the base paths. I wouldn't say, you know, filled with Gold Glovers in the field, but offense, and pitching has been really, really sound as well.
Yeah, that is so interesting, because all Buster Posey has talked about is defense and pitching. And obviously Oracle Park is a pitcher's park. That, to me, what you just said, Eric, that speaks to the fact that Buster loves Tony Vitello as just the entity that he is and as the coach. And Buster feels like we can figure out all that other stuff once Tony gets out here. We're going to put together a staff that makes a lot of sense, because, yeah, the hitting thing. And look, the Giants got some guys. They're probably going to go out there and get another bat. But, yeah, definitely not a hitter's ballpark and an offensive focus team. They had a crazy stretch at the end of the season, but not who they've typically been. Eric, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. One more, how are you feeling about Josh Elander taking over? There's only one Tony Vitello. When you take over for a legend, and I think you could call him a legend based on what he did in a short amount of time, how you feel Josh Elander is going to be able to step into his shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Obviously, Elander's been here every step of the way with Tony. He was a volunteer assistant when the two were at Arkansas. Tony was on staff with Jim Schlossnagle at TCU when Josh Elander was a player. So those guys go way back. And, you know, Garrett Crochet told us at VolQuest.com over the weekend, you know, obviously a former Tennessee stud. He said, hey, you know, Josh Elander and Tony Vitello, they're of the same coin but two different sides. And I see that. Tony and Josh Elander are completely different people, but the foundation of how to build a winning program through relationships, through attacking the portal, through, you know, attacking some of the best players in the country and getting classes ahead, like, that's all the same. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of the same, man, because, again, I think Elander's had a hand in everything that Tony's done here over the last 8 years. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm thrilled to see what Tony looks like in San Francisco along with everybody else. And I think you guys, it won't be perfect, obviously. Nothing ever is. But I think the San Francisco fan base is going to fall in love with Tony Vitello.
Yeah, and to close here, a lot of people, and shout out to everybody that's always in my comments, your comments as well. The idea of the X's and O's, and a lot of people are going to hear this interview and watch this interview and say the offense thing. I don't know, Alan. Feels like they're pushing and pulling in two different directions, but it comes down to, Eric, do you have it? And it can mean a lot of things outside of sports, inside of sports. Clearly, Tony Vitello has it. Buster Posey is convinced he has it. And in those free agency conversations, in those draft conversations, when you walk in with Buster Posey and his rings and Tony Vitello and that it factor that he has, they're going to feel pretty confident about anybody else they're going up against. And I'm excited to see it. I still can't really believe it happened. No. At least the colors aren't going to change too much. He's still in the orange, maybe a slightly darker orange, but depending on the City Connect, and he's got the black going as well. Crazy jerseys that they have out there in Tennessee, by the way. The gray ones, oh my goodness, those are the best. So thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. Be sure to check out Eric at Locked On Vols. And where else can they find you, Eric?
Yeah, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find me on Twitter as well at _Cainer. And if you big Drew Gilbert crazy fans want to know more Tennessee baseball, come on down and listen to us at Locked On Vols.
Thanks again, Eric Cain. When we return, Ron Wotus, should he return as a bench coach for the Giants? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and if you can play anywhere, Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players, Mahomes, Steph Curry, to see how my predictions play out. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves the game early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. One more segment with you. It has been a great episode. Eric Cain was able to join us from Locked On Vols. That was outstanding stuff from Eric. Obviously, the press conference with Tony Vitello, getting to hear from him and hear more of his thought process and why he decided to join the Giants. Outstanding stuff here on a Thursday. And I wanted to close out the show talking about the bench. Right? And not bench players, but the bench coaches. And should this former bench coach rejoin the Giants? And of course, I'm talking about the one, the only, the great Ron Wotus. Now, Ron Wotus, as the Giants embark on the next chapter under new manager Tony Vitello, the biggest question has been, who in the world are the Giants going to bring on? He is a Giants coaching lifer whose career spans decades and commands deep respect within the organization. I think this is a perfect marriage as we look at the different entities that the Giants are trying to bring in. Might be some younger guys, might be some guys that are more connected to the college ranks. Even though they want to do that, you have to bring in those that know the organization, know the game, know the league, and Ron Wotus is definitely that guy. He is synonymous with Giants culture. He's synonymous with championships. He served in multiple coaching roles, including bench coach with the franchise from the late 90s through 2021. Vitello is coming in, obviously, with zero managing experience. Wotus beside him brings that veteran stability, somebody that knows organization, its culture, expectations, and everything that Tony Vitello is trying to blend together with who he is. I think the credibility with the players would be out of this world. He has been praised, Ron Wotus has, for his player relationships, his infield fundamentals, defensive positioning, and being a bench coach that players want to buy into. I'm all about, I've said it before on the show, making a type of gumbo. And I know Tennessee, you got Tony Vitello coming from the South, blending things together. And I think some new school with some older school would be perfect for this Giants team. Vitello is known for that energy that he's going to bring. Wotus may represent that kind of old guard of baseball, but in a fresh way, right? In a way that he's been around. He's seen so much. The reason I'm not really worried about the young versus older type of deal is because Ron Wotus has already been around since the 90s, right? Into the 2020s. He's seen a lot. He has seen so much as far as the game of baseball and how things have changed. So I'm not worried at all about, will things not match the right way, or is he willing to listen to the new school stuff, or could there be some disconnect? Ron Wotus has already been around for the new school stuff. He's already been around for the bat flips. He's already been around for the let the kids play. I don't necessarily know how he feels about all that, but he's already been around for all of that. So this is not something to where we don't necessarily know how he would react, because he's already been around for it. He's been around for so long. He's seen so many different changes within baseball. He's seen how batting averages have turned into exit velocity and the three true outcomes of strikeouts, home runs, and walks. He's seen how the premier positions and the elite positions and the premium positions of shortstop, center field is now turned into this positionless baseball where you can just throw anybody at shortstop. You can throw anybody at center field. I know not anybody, but you understand what I'm saying. So he's seen all of this stuff, and I think it would really help to add a bit of stability, right? A lot of people that are worried about bringing, even fans that are worried about bringing Tony Vitello in, you bring in a Ron Wotus, okay, cool. At least we know there's somebody that's been around the block and understands what needs to be done. So I think it's a very attractive option for the Giants. It offers institutional memory, veteran presence, and a calming guide alongside a rookie MLB manager in Tony Vitello. If the front office wants to hedge the risk that comes with hiring a manager from college, and by the way, we talked a couple weeks ago about hiring a manager from the minor league ranks. The National just hired a 33-year-old from the minor league. So this is wild stuff that's happening in Major League Baseball. And I'm not going to say Buster Posey opened the door, but they are starting to think of different ways to get things done. And they are starting to look outside the typical coaching carousel. And this is how we've always done things, right? This is how the world works, right? How cars got created, how different ways to store food, all of this. Hey, well, we've done it this way. Well, why don't we try to do it a different way? So I think you pair Ron Wotus along with a couple other modern leaning guys as well, and you just continue to find guys that are on the same page or even different pages with analytics, pitching, and development. They don't have to all agree, but they all have to bring something else to the table so they can marry all that together and it'll make sense. Outstanding resume from Ron Wotus, outstanding resume from Tony Vitello in the college ranks. And if you put those two things together, I think it could be a match made in heaven. Buster Posey, I think we'll know a lot based on whether Ron does it or not. If Ron wants to continue coaching, I know he's still connected to the Giants organization right now. If he wants to get back into it, it's still a grind, regardless of whether you are a manager or not. And I was reading that back in the day, he did go for the manager position. They ended up going with Gabe Kapler. For those of you who may not have known that nugget. So he's wanted to be a part of this organization, and he has been a part of this organization. It feels like his whole life, right? Or maybe even my whole life or your whole life. So this is something I really think that the Giants should think about. If it doesn't happen, I think it's so obvious. If it doesn't happen, I think there are pretty simple reasons why. Either Ron doesn't want to continue coaching and get back into coaching. Like I said, 2021. So that was a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, or Buster Posey knows more than people like me and people like the other articles that we've kind of broken down here. And he doesn't think that it would be a great fit. He is going to have to get some guys with experience, and he knows that. It might just not be Ron Wotus, but on the surface, based on what Ron has been able to accomplish in his career, based on the parades that we've seen Ron at and what he's been a part of within this Giants organization, to me, it makes a ton of sense. So we'll see where the Giants end up going, but that's a name I wanted to throw out. Some of you weren't very high on Antoine Richardson. Maybe you'll be higher on Ron Wotus, because I know that connection. Anytime anybody's connected to Gabe Kapler, it comes off a little bit different. Thank you for watching and listening to the Locked On Giants podcast. Be sure to follow me on social media at _Styles Files, Styles with an I. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.